to the beginnings of your life and your passion and what you do. And to start this off, I want to know, how did you survive the pandemic the last 3.5 years? How did you get through it, and how did it change you?
Oh, I'm still getting through it,
Yeah.
Joe, to be honest with you, because of what my mission and my passion is, which is working with young people. And to your point, literally in a matter of hours, my nonprofit was literally shut down for 11 months. We couldn't do any activities, and we do one-on-one clinics, group clinics, excuse me, one-on-one lessons, group clinics, summer camps, special events. So for 11 months, I couldn't do any of that, but I stayed in contact with the kids, and I wrote a book during that time of, the work that I do and realizing that what I teach, in a gym can also be shared and part of real life for kids. So I wrote a book during that time, and now I'm utilizing that and reconnecting, and it's allowed me to shift my mission from, coaching and mentoring through sport to just mentoring kids in life skills to make them successful both now and into the future.
So, did you always have a dream of becoming a coach? What was your dream when you were, say, in the third grade?
Oh, I wanna be a basketball player,
Yeah.
but ironically, I got cut from the basketball team every year in high school, and it was one of those things. This is a life lesson, is I love the sport, but I wasn't good enough to play, and to my own, I should say, I didn't put in the work to be the best player I could be. I thought my natural talent was gonna get me there. Few years later, I got an opportunity to coach, and I found out very quickly that I had more of an impact of coaching than I ever would have playing. So me getting cut was the best thing to ever happen because I found out in short time that I connected with kids on their level. I was able to convey not just the athletic component, but also the skills that go beyond sport: communication, responsibility, accountability, teamwork. And I just parlayed that for the last 39 years, and I love every aspect of it.
So let's go back to the beginnings of your life. Where were you born and raised, and how did these seeds of sport and leadership and making a positive impact on people, how did that happen?
All of that happened, when, I was, really young. My biological father was non-existent, not a, very good father and not a good husband, and my mom, was smart enough realizing that she and my older brother and I needed a better life, so she left him and met the most amazing man who is my father, or was my father, and he was a 30-year Marine, and served 2 tours of Vietnam. Unfortunately, we lost him to leukemia from his exposure to Agent Orange during his time in Vietnam in 1996. So, he is the foundation for what I do because what he instilled in my brothers and I, our younger brother came along after. But what he instilled in us is what I share with young people today, and that is about leadership, respect, accountability, and family, in recognizing that every relationship that you ever come in, that you have is yours to build, nurture, and to have the longevity with that. But he also shared, if you ever have an opportunity to help somebody, you do it without hesitation and without any expectation of reward. That is what I'm continuing to do. And when I started my nonprofit, JLT Fieldhouse is named in my father's honor. His name was Joe Louis Thompson. So that is the legacy that I'm trying to carry on, based on my upbringing.
Wonderful. So you operate as a role model for a lot of people. Who's been that for you? Who's been a hero or role model in your life that's inspired you?
Well, obviously, my father would be, and also my older brother, who's also a doctor of education. He was like my protector when I was younger, but I've learned so much. He is the epitome of leadership, and we're totally different in personalities, but our goals are the same. And the irony in that, Joe, is that as I mentioned my upbringing, my brother ends up becoming an educator, and spending his life doing the exact same thing that I'm doing, but in a different arena. So that's the impact that our father had on us. So that's truly is the person that I look up to the most, of course, with my mom as well.
If you can meet anybody alive on the planet right now and spend some time with them, someone that's inspirational, who would it be?
Ooh, wow, that is a great question. A person that I can meet. I would love to meet Deion Sanders because he and our approaches to coaching and mentoring are so close and so aligned, other than the fact he has a lot more money than I do and has a more prestigious job. But he would be somebody I would love to sit down and talk to because I think we'd have a great conversation about this next generation and how he connects and how I connect and how we bridge those two to make an even bigger impact.
So, as a sports fan, if you could get into a time machine and go back and see any game with your own eyes, watch it happen, where are you going?
I'm going to the 1982 national championship game between Georgetown and North Carolina.
Wow. I
I've watched that game about 10 times, and I said, "Man, if I could be there to could have been there to watch that game."
I was just thinking at one point when you were talking about not making the team. Michael Jordan was cut from his high school team.
Right,
Isn't that crazy?
exactly,
You know?
exactly.
And there's something about loss in life. It just makes you a stronger organism. You work harder.
Oh, it's 100%, and I found out years later, you probably have too, that there's certain aspects of Michael Jordan that people didn't like, but what they didn't like is what they didn't have, and what that was is that killer instinct. Yes, everybody's not gonna like what you do, but you do it because it's what you believe in, and the results speak for themselves.
I was thinking, Mahomes played sick a few weeks ago in Denver and it didn't turn out well. I think about that game that Michael played in Phoenix when they gave him that pizza, the delivery, and he was bad sick. He still destroyed that game.
Yes, I do remember that. Yeah, I mean, when you're determined, there's nothing, I mean, absolutely nothing that can keep you from achieving whatever it is you wanna do, and I think that that's a huge message for not only just kids, but for all of us.
Absolutely. So speaking of achieving, what is it every day for you that gets you out of bed, that motivates you, that has ultimately made you the coach and the man that you are?
Knowing that I make a difference in kids' lives, because Joe is I kid you not, and I'm not making this up, there's not a week that doesn't go by that I don't get a text from a kid that I either am or have worked with, and it's, "Hey, coach, just checking in with you," or I'll send a text, and knowing that you make a difference, that inspires you, and you're going like, "Okay, how can I stay connected with these kids without being a hovering coach, going, like, trying to get too involved in their lives, just letting them know that they're being thought of." That's something that's not done with a lot of kids, and they've shared that with me in time, so they are the reason that I get up because I know I make a difference.
My wife's a fifth grade teacher, and it's been hard just because it's coming back from the pandemic and things have changed so much. And she got a notice from one of her kids that's a big time comedian hanging out with Kevin Hart. And he invited her to the club with another teacher. And it was amazing. Just couldn't believe it, how far and you were talking about that, when you see these kids excel and get to places and then acknowledge you for that, it validates a lot because there's a lot that goes into it. There's a lot of things that you do that no one will ever know about.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, and I think there's something else really important to share too, Joe, from a different perspective is, um, these kids have made me a better coach because of every interaction I've had. I've learned something not only about them, but I've learned something about myself, and a couple examples would be how I connect with kids. Well, every kid is different. As you say, your wife's a teacher, so you understand this too. Is every child has that button that you can push to really connect with them, and every kid's different. Some you can push the button and it happens right away. Some of them like a car that's flooded. You got to keep trying. You got to keep trying. But ultimately, if you're committed to making an impact, you stay with it. Nothing happens overnight, but the kids have taught me a lot about myself, and they've made me realize even more so that what I do matters because it matters to them.
So, of all of these people that have come back and extolled the virtues of what you've done for them, what was the one note that you got that was utterly surprising, that was just you didn't expect it? It's always held a very special place in your life.
During the pandemic, there's the school where I was coaching at the time had asked me that they knew I was doing all of our nonprofit activities at the school, but I couldn't do that. So I said, "Hey, would you help with our lower school kids, which is junior kindergarten through fourth grade, help with PE?" And I'm like, "Absolutely, would love to." So did that. At the end of the year, the kids started giving me notes and thanking me and all of this, and this 3rd grader wrote a note. It was the most thoughtful and insightful thing I've ever received from a kid that young, and basically, she was apologizing for how they behaved during the year and thanked me for my patience, but more importantly, for teaching us about teamwork and about communication, and I was just like, wow, these are things I didn't specifically say, but the lesson was learned, and I have that, and I read it, I'm like, It's amazing that you can make a connection at any age if you just put forth the effort to connect with kids on their level.
So, speaking of youth, if you were to have a dream tonight, you ran into a much younger version of you, say in your 20s, and you could give that version of you a piece of advice based on the wisdom you've gained in your life up to this point. What advice would you give your younger self?
Not to doubt yourself. I doubted myself for many years, and I think part of that is, go back to me not making the basketball team. You beat yourself up. Oh, I'm good enough. I'm good enough. Well, then the reason I say I shouldn't doubt myself. Had I put forth the work, put in the work, I would have made that. And when you second guess yourself, you doubt yourself. When you doubt yourself, you limit your ability to be successful. When you limit your ability to be successful, then your self esteem and your confidence level is not where it should be. My personality has always been a very outgoing personality, but I doubted myself when I was a lot younger, and I wish I hadn't done that.
So, of all the things that you've done, you've overcome and achieved in your life, what are you the proudest of?
Meeting my wife, because I had never planned to get married. So that was definitely by far the one thing that has really solidified my life. And the reason I say that is because she's been so supportive of what I'm doing, because it takes a lot. And she understands the time, energy, and effort that goes into not only being a coach and mentor, but time away from home and coaching games, traveling, and things of that nature. Great supporter. And when you have a good support system, it allows you to stay focused on your goal and your mission.
So, at the end of the day, you have all these people that are a part of your life and world that know you, family, friends, the students, clients, colleagues, but you actually are the one in control. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I think I'm a person that gives of himself sometimes too much because I believe in the sanctity of relationships, trust, and loyalty. And these are things that are gone by the wayside over the course of 10 to 15 years. And I look at every relationship I've had and I've reevaluated each one of those, Joe, and from the standpoint of if we truly value the relationships that we have as either player coach, coach, parent teacher, whatever it is, father daughter, mother son, if we value those relationships, we put in the time, energy, and effort to foster those and build those. They are lifelong relationships that you can always go to at any time. If I were to ask you, could you pick up the phone and call a friend of yours that you considered to be a close friend for many years? Could you pick up the phone and pick up where you left off, or would you have to really reconnect? And that's why I always ask when I start thinking about people. And we've gotten so far away from that. And this next generation of kids needs to understand the importance of relationship because every person they come in contact with is a building block for their success, but they don't realize it because they don't know how to build and foster those relationships.
So, in the pantheon of sports, coaching is huge and it's not on the forefront. It's always about the athlete and the trophy that gets hoisted up at the end. But I'm curious, if you could be a fly on the wall for a coach that had a very impassioned speech for their group of athletes, who would you love to have seen in their prime, like really building that team up?
I actually got to meet is my basketball coaching idol, and that's Dean Smith.
Yeah.
Um, Dean Smith was truly the epitome of coaching because he coached men that happened to play basketball and they happened to be good at it. He taught life skills. I'm not sure if you remember after he passed, he wrote a check to every one of his scholarship athletes for $200.
Yeah.
How do you not recognize a man that remembers every player going back to his 60s? And he understood that every young man he came in contact with, and it was never about him, it was always about his players. And that would be a person that I would love to. And there was a story I read his book, A Coach's Life, and there was a story in there where one of the players was recalling a story about a close game, and everybody else is on pins and needles, and it's like, okay, oh my gosh, we're gonna lose this game. And Dean Smith calls a timeout, and he smiles and he's laughing, and he goes, "Isn't this fun?" And they're all looking at him like, "Are you crazy?" But by him doing that, it eased the anxiety and the tension. He gave his little, strategic um, goal for that to end the game, and they went out and won the game. that always stuck with me because every time I coached after that, I remembered that it's just a sport
Yeah,
because this is just a short time, but there's a lesson in every interaction that you have in any sport.
absolutely. So if anyone wants to learn more about your nonprofit, they want to learn more about anything pertaining to your world, reach out. How do they do that?
They can do that by going to jltfieldhouse.org, and that is our nonprofit website. And also my coaching mentoring site is coachtscorner.com, where I actually have courses on there. Also, affirmations for preteens and teens. I also have a podcast for teens, along with a youth and development coach, Keith Senzer. We have a podcast called Teen Speak, where we interview teenagers, middle school, high school, and college students. It's a great opportunity for kids to share their challenges, but more importantly, the strategies that they've used to overcome those challenges, and allows the next generation to help the next generation.
Right on. Coach T, you're a force of good. Keep changing the world. Thank you for your time today, and best of luck with everything.
Thank you, Joe. I really appreciate you having me. Great conversation, by the way. Love it. Thank you so
Absolutely.
much, and continued success to you as well.
Yes, sir. Take care.